Hey everyone, I think this project is going to be the easiest project I've ever made next to the dangle I just did. And you're probably thinking, I don't even know how to do this. I've made 100 of them. And for anyone that has junk journal for a while, I'm sure that's true. But when I first started junk journaling, I didn't know what a book board was. I didn't know the purpose of it. And I mean, yes, it's self-explanatory, it's laminated, but I think there is a little bit to know about one, and that is the thickness it needs to be and what the purpose of it is. And I have just completed some journals that have charms in them. This one here, this one is removable, but if you didn't want to remove it, this would be kind of a hindrance when you're writing. There's a big lump here. And I've done a lot of book boards and I've included a lot of book boards with my journals. But to be real honest with you, I've never actually tried one out to see, does it really make a difference? So I put this one in here and it does. Now it's smooth and I can write without a big lump. And yes, it makes a difference. So I had this one already made and it fit perfectly in here. But I have another journal very similar that also has a charm inside. And so I need to make a book board for this one. And I thought, well, while I'm making them, I might as well just film it. And maybe there's someone out there who hasn't made them one before. And I also have this size of a journal. So I went ahead and cut a piece for that too. That will, I'm sure, more than likely need a book board. So two things to remember are when you're cutting this is you want to make it slightly smaller than what you need your completed size to be, because you're going to have to leave a little bit of lip around the book board when you're trimming, because if you cut into the seal, then you will, I mean, you'll just be able to flip this apart. And it's hard to tell on this one because I've cut right next to the seal. But when I do one of these, I can show you what I'm talking about if you don't already know. So I cut down the sizes. I just used, obviously this was some fruit chews, and I cut down the sizes that I needed. I left probably, like this one has maybe a 16th of an inch. I would give a quarter of an inch on each side. Even though that's not really what's there, you could probably leave a quarter of an inch overall and be fine. I probably left about a half just to be for sure. So before you, after I cut it, I like to round my corners. If sometimes you get packaging and the inside is really pretty, has a really pretty cardboard, this one doesn't, so I'm going to go ahead and put something on both sides. You could just do some stamping on one side. I did some stamping. Could do something like this. I did a lot of stamping and then colored it like this. That would look nice, something that simple. But I think just for the sake of that, I am going to do some stamping on. I'm going to cover each one with this beautiful French book page. It is very thin and brittle. So to be able to use it and it won't crack and its goodness will last, I'm going to put it on each side of this. And then I may do some stamping over it because both of my journals are autumn, fall themed, and I think some leaves or something would look nice. We'll see what it looks like. And I also, for the other side, had some mamagami paper that I had made in a previous video. That's actually what's on the other side of this is mamagami paper, and it kind of looks like faux leather, I guess. And then this side is a vintage work basket catalog page. I thought it was pretty. And I just put on a paper bead that I made from a paper clip and clipped on some old beads and hooked it on the side. So that's what we're going to do, and it will not take very long. So I'm just going to use some glue stick on both of these and glue them down to my mamagami paper. And you don't have to be heavy-handed with this because once it goes through the laminator, it's not going to move anyway. I'm just putting it on here enough so that to keep it still while it goes through the laminating machine. Lace would be pretty on one side of this. And then another thing, if you're using something like lace that's, you know, a little bit see-through, you want to be careful that you use something darker on the side that has your advertisement so that it won't show through. And again, I know I'm telling you things that, you know, probably don't need to be said, but let's face it, or maybe it's just me. I don't think of all the things when I very first do something, so maybe this will save somebody a little bit of time. And the reason I didn't go all the way to the top, there's a tear there. So I didn't go all the way to the top. I guess I could have, but I didn't. So now I'm just going to cut around these. I guess I didn't need to be so stingy with laying my mamagami papers so close, but it does take a bit to make it, even though it's very, very pretty, and I don't like to waste it. So there's that one. I'm going to trim up this one. You could also sew around this. I have done that before. I'm not going to do it this time, but that's always looks nice. And it does keep a good seal even with the sewing on there. So now I'm going to do the same with the other side and glue down my book page. And I want to get my number. I like the page numbers on things for some reason. Well, I guess I could always lay it down. I can see. Not pretty. I love that old paper. I might just do this empty space. I might just stamp some leaves. Do the same on this second one. If you have any kind of page like this where it's very fragile, this is a great thing to do with it because it, you know, of course, once it's laminated, it doesn't matter. I think I'm going to put this one in the middle so that I don't have so much blank spot on this one. Then I'm going to trim around them again. So this one's ready. I pulled up a little of the page. So I'm just going to glue a little bit back down. It doesn't even have to match because I'm probably going to put something there anyway. But luckily this paper has kind of a dark edge on it, so it blended right in. I have some leaves that I've dried, and I think rather than stamp some leaves, I'm going to use some of those dried leaves on the back. I think that's going to look cool. So I think that's what I'm going to do instead of stamping. I'm going to use real leaves on this one. Pick out some different colors. Those three look nice. I know you're probably thinking, okay, well, you're making a book board so you don't have things, you know, to write on something hard. Aren't the leaves going to mess with that? And you will feel it a little bit, but it's not going to mess up with your writing much. I think that these are going to lay flat enough that it's not going to matter. So that one I think is done. I might I don't think I'm going to ink on this side. I think that I'm just going to put the leaves on here. And I don't want to put a whole lot because I do want that beautiful French writing to show through. So I'm going to leave that one as it is and put it in, go ahead and put it in the laminated folder. And one thing I will tell you about the laminating folders is they come in a 3mm and a 5mm. A lot of things, like when I'm making a journal or just tags, I will use the 3mm. I like the thinner sometimes, but on a book board, I think the stiffness you really do want. I'm going to use a 5mm on these for sure. You want that extra thickness. I'm getting it pretty close to the top. And then I'm going to fix my leaves again. So I'm probably just going to put some more leaves over here so that I don't waste my laminating sheet. You can always cut it and save it for later, but I tend to forget I have them when they're not in full sheets. I like to do these little ones. They make nice little charms. Sure, you already know this too, but when you're laminating things like this, you have to remember, if you're going to put them in a specimen card, to leave enough room beside of them to be able to glue down to the inside of your specimen card. And I know it seems like I'm telling you things that are painfully obvious, but I can promise you I've done that before. I stuffed as many things as I could possibly put in here, and then I couldn't cut them. Well, I could cut them, but I couldn't glue them to anything because I had them too close. And I didn't have enough room to glue them to my specimen card. This one I know I'll probably just make a little charm out of, so I don't really have to have much room for that one. I'm just going to put that one right there. Isn't this one pretty? A little bitty leaf. So if I know that I'm not going to take much room, I'm probably going to make it a charm. I'm just going to, I don't have to have that much room, so I can put it pretty close. I'm not going to glue it to anything, in other words, when it's done. So that one's ready. And I usually run them through twice just to make double sure. There's really no need to do that. Okay, so I was telling you about the seal. If you can see, kind of see where that seal is. You don't want to break that. But because it's very wide, and because it's wide because this is a little thicker, it's not real thick, but it's, you know, more so than the leaves, it has a wider seal. If you break that seal, it's not a big deal. I'll show you. We can run it through again and it will seal it. I'm going to cut a little closer than my seal. So it's going to break that seal. And that's okay. I'm not upset because, see, it's open. We can put it back. We can run it through the laminating machine again and it will seal it back. I'm just going to continue on with that width all the way around best I can. That's pretty good. And then I'm going to run it through my laminator again. Okay, I'm going to have to tell on myself. So on this one, I got a little close and really too close for it to seal back. So what I did is I took a little bit of the Fabri-Tac and I squeezed it in there where it was open. And I wanted to make sure that it looked okay, and I'm sure my camera is shining with this lamination, but I was looking at the other one that I had done, and really it has a kind of a haze to it as well from the actual sealing of it. So worst case, you can always cheat and put a little bit of the Fabri-Tac in there and it will hold it, and it doesn't look any different than a normal laminated one does. So that's a little cheat that I did. I did the same thing on this one. I got a little bit close. See if I can find here. Here's a spot right here. So I'm just going to put a little bit of Fabri-Tac in here. And squeeze it to the edge. You can already, it already looks good. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and run it through the laminating machine just so that glue will get good and hot and seal. So I'm just double checking on this one to make sure it is sealed all the way around, and it is. Another thing you could do is you could sew it around it now. I just really don't like to sew once it's been laminated because I feel like the stitches would, you know, kind of miss. If you was writing, maybe you could feel those stitches. Okay, so here is the one. I put a little bit of Fabri-Tac. It looks great. I don't know if you can see it, but it does look good, and it is sealed, so we're good. And I'm not going to put a charm or anything on this one yet because this journal isn't in its finishing stages yet, and I almost have to be finished so that I kind of know, what's inside. It kind of inspires me what to put as a charm. I know that sounds silly, but on this one, I'm pretty much done, and I know that on this journal, I did a lot of autumn leaves. So I'm thinking that that's what I'm going to do, is I'm just going to do a little dangle and maybe hang some of these leaves from it. I want to add that you don't have to laminate. You could just use 2 pieces of cardboard versus 1. It will definitely make it thick enough that you could use it as a book board. The only difference, you don't want to use a glue stick. You're going to want to use something that holds better, like the art glitter glue or the Fabri-Tac. Something that when you glue on your, whatever your covers are, in this case mine was the mamagami paper and the book page, you want them to hold them better, not just long enough to get to the laminator. And the glue stick, I don't think, will hold the mamagami paper as well as like art glitter glue or the Fabri-Tac. That shows you how to do the book boards. I think that they're really pretty. Hope that I give you some good tips, and if you had any questions about what they were for or how to use them, I hope I answered those for you. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time, guys. Bye.